Fan Forum podcast is presented by Interstate 70 Sports Media Group. I-70 strives to bring you the best sports coverage in the tri-state area. Find them on Facebook or at interstate70sports.media.
This is Jordan Bennington, and you're listening to the Blues Fan Forum podcast.
Skating on the ice, under St. Louis city lights, where the Blues play with all their might. Jordan Cairo, fast on the attack, but defense falters, gotta cut him some slack. In rubber tongues, we find our glory. His skills shine, the team's best story. St. Louis Blues, we wear the crest. In Jordan Bennington, we put our trust to the test. On the ice, we fight and we must, for the city we love. In the blue, no we'll thrust.
Hello there, everyone, and welcome to episode 149 of the Blues Fan Forum podcast, your source for Blues news, views, and fan interviews. Presented by Scooters Coffee. Blues fans can score amazing drinks like the signature Caramelicious, served hot, iced, or blended with world-class espresso, fruit smoothies, Scoot energy infusions, and so much more. That is amazing people, amazing drinks, amazingly fast. Scooters Coffee. Episode 149. We're almost to the big 150. Couldn't even imagine. I remember when we got to episode 100, and I was like, "This is nuts." And we just continue to do this. This just came up as an idea randomly, and I was like, "This sounds fun. Let's do it." And now look at us being live on Facebook and having a co-host in Dakota and new guests every week, like our guest this week. So it's been a lot of fun. 149 episodes, almost to the big 150. I mentioned Dakota. He is back with the super cool background now that he's got his basement all done and did. What's up, Dakota?
What's going on? Hey, now we get to talk about the Olympics. The Blues are kind of taking a nice little hiatus. We don't have to talk about them with the ebbs and flows of the losing season. So what better way to kick it off than a nice Olympic episode talking about some really good competitive hockey?
Yeah, and we've already had some pretty awesome competitive hockey, especially if you're a United States fan from the U.S. women's team. So exciting to finally get the men's going coming up here tomorrow. Our guest this week is, I'm going to call you by the name you wrote on here, Itch Rocks Dan. Dan, how are you?
Doing great. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem. Dan, I'm going to ask you here in a second about your podcast and rock radio that you have, of the Itch Rocks or the Itch Radio. Before I do that, I do need to remind everybody that we have our first watch party of actually this season. It's been kind of hard to plan a watch party this year because I was worried no one would show up because I'm like, nobody wants to watch the Blues. But at some point, we got to get the fans together and get a watch party going. So on Thursday, March 12th, the Blues play away at the Carolina Hurricanes. The game starts at 6. At 5 o'clock, we will be at Fridays South in Collinsville, Illinois. So if you want to come hang out, eat some good food, when it comes to every single watch party that we've done, it is 1, always a good time. 2, there's always very good raffles that you can win some pretty nice things for very little amount of money. I typically always have some sort of jersey, whether that jersey is signed or not, depends on what I can find. But I will have at least a jersey you can win, tickets you can win, giveaways from Hughes Custom Design, giveaways from Scooters Coffee, giveaways from Imprint Labs, all of our sponsors. Probably some specials. I still have to talk to Fridays to see if they're interested in that. But either way, the pizza that they have on their social media platforms looks really good. So I'll probably be getting a pizza. Pizza, beer, Blues, Thursday night. Not really sure how you do that better. So like I said, Thursday, March 12th at Friday South in Collinsville. Come hang out with us. And even if the Blues lose, at least we can have a good time hanging out. All right. Let's get in, kind of like Dakota said, not a whole lot of Blues hockey. We got a little Blues information and Blues stuff to talk about, but we're going to also spend a decent amount of time on the Olympics. Before we get into that, our special guest, Dan, here has some experience in the podcasting world. So, Dan, why don't you kind of introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah. First off, your meetup sounds great. I will say that I would love to be a part of that, but you're like in Illinois. That's like all the way across 2 rivers from me.
Right.
But this is because this is my favorite Blues T-shirt. Says they make me drink.
Yeah, that's a good.
So I've been a dedicated Blues fan born and raised in St. Louis, so for all my life. And it's funny. I've grown up in as I've gotten older, I've become more and more of a hockey fan because the Cardinals have kind of declined for like the last 10 to 15 years. And, then we had the Blues kind of on the uptick at the same time. So yeah, now my kids are into more into hockey than baseball as well. So yeah. Also, but one of the reasons why I wanted to do this, and thank you very much for having me, is because I do a music podcast where we interview artists, rock bands. I'm like nervous. That's crazy. I've never get nervous to do this, but it's live. So my podcast is not live.
It's just 3 dudes talking hockey, and then I will say our number 1 fan, Sam, is listening to you, and she'll judge you. I'm just kidding.
That's awesome. But yeah, so we have a radio show that we've been doing in St. Louis radio for 20 plus years now, every Sunday night from 6 to 9 p.m. on 89.1 FM. It's rock radio. And then we started a podcast during the pandemic about 5 years ago. That's what I was gonna say. Congratulations on almost episode 150, because I as a podcaster, I know how big of a feat that is. Consistency is the name of the game in podcasting. Like we're on episode 310.
I was gonna say, I listened to the beginning of 310 today. I just had it on. I really liked your intro, the intro music that you had for that. I was like, okay, this is kind of cool.
That's actually one thing I was going to ask you guys about, because yeah, we had one of the reasons why we did started a radio show is because we wanted to get smaller known bands out there. That's one of the things that I absolutely love, is sharing bands that nobody really knows. And we kind of discovered a band back in 2004 that we just fell in love with, and it's a band called Skin Dread. They're mainly a European band from UK, but it's like reggae metal, reggae rock. And they, like, when we finally started the podcast, our second interview ever was with the drummer of that band, and they gave us permission to use their song. So that's the intro that you hear is from Skin Dread.
That's cool.
Which I wanted to ask you about your intro, because it's an incredible song for one. I love the lyrics are very good. It almost sounds like it could be AI because it's so damn good. Like, did you guys write that yourselves, or?
It is 100% AI.
I figured.
Yep. I had ChatGPT write the lyrics for me, and then I don't remember. There's a bunch of AI things out there. Another AI create the music for me. And then the video is from a guy on YouTube. He calls himself Frank Sanko or something like that. So yeah, it's all either AI created or borrowed from Frank Sanko on Facebook, who he does makes a lot of kind of mashups he does for the Blues, but just other NHL teams as well, which is it's some pretty cool videos, just hype videos. So
awesome. Well, thank you again for having me. And, I really hope that this helps spread our local audience, because we go to a lot of local concerts, a lot of local rock shows. And so if you see me at a show, come say hi. I'll be more than happy to talk Blues, Cardinals, music, whatever.
Mm-hmm. I went to a buddy of mine just started a band, and he played in, I think, a small bar in Arnold, Missouri, maybe.
Okay.
And it was a pretty cool setup. They had 4 bands going, and all the bands played just mini sets. So they really were on stage for like 30 minutes. Nice. They played a little mini set of their own music or covers, whatever type of music they wanted to play. And then they were off. And I was like, that's kind of cool way to, if you're a new band, to just get out there and be able to play your music. But also if you're just interested in trying to find some new people, is you get 4 bands in about 2 hours or 3 hours ish. So it was a cool experience.
Yeah, I definitely recommend checking out those shows and showing up for openers, because you just never know who you're going to discover. That's how we discovered Skin Dread. Yeah, that's itchrocks.com, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. It's the Itch Podcast. Thank you.
Reminds me of a buddy I used to work with He's the lead singer of Fivefold. And I was like, man, like, how have you not? Because he also does his own music, but I was like, how have you not just like made it mainstream? And like hearing his like story and how they started off as like just a basic garage band to where, now they're playing in like Nashville and Massachusetts, and they're playing all over these places. Just how much like it takes to just kind of like make it to radio. Like just that story alone, I'm like, damn, like it really is a grind. Like it really is.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you having this platform that you get to kind of showcase the locals and the people that don't necessarily get to have that mainstream media.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, that we do bigger artist interviews. Like some of the largest that we've done are like the drummer from Hailstorm. We've had Kenny Wayne Shepherd on the show, Joe Bonamassa, the drummer for 311. So yeah, it's all over the place. And then local bands, our friends in Tree 14, just one of the best local, or my favorite local bands, I should say, not the best. It's subjective, obviously, but it's one of my favorites.
All right. Let's see. We do have Kelsey listening in. She says she's late again, which Kelsey, you better figure it out because you're a guest on the episode, I think, coming up at some point. So you better make sure you're on time. And then just to kind of lead us in, let's go ahead and jump into Olympics. And Sam kind of let us know that Dvorsky plays tomorrow morning at 10:40. She is on the East Coast, so that would be Eastern time. It'll be 9:40 for us Central time, folks. Dan, what are you looking ahead to for the Olympics? Are you excited about watching our St. Louis Blues players? Are you just excited about watching these, like USA Canada matchups? What are you excited about for the Olympics?
All the above. I mean, it's been 12 years, 14 years since we've had best on best hockey in the Olympics. So yeah, everything. I'm really excited just for the enhanced competition, and I'm excited for our guys to get these experiences, especially guys like Dvorsky, because I think he's going to be playing second line center for the Slovakian team.
Yeah, that's what I just found earlier. Yep,
it's awesome. Like that's great exposure for him.
Yeah, second line center for Dvorsky. It looked like third line center for Suter. Actually, surprisingly, Parayko looks like he might be the second line defenseman for Team Canada. I know before he was kind of projected to be maybe off of the top three lines there. And then who am I missing? Bennington, as of right now, last time I checked, Daily Faceoff says Logan Thompson starting in net, and Bennington will be, at least he's not the healthy scratch guy. He will be the backup. But they had Bennington there. And then Broberg they had as the third line defenseman for Sweden. So at least at minimum, all of our skaters are getting pretty solid playing time.
Yeah, Sweden could be a really secretly good team. Like their defense is stellar. Just looking at the names on that team is just incredible.
Does that kind of like beg the question, if Logan Thompson throws up a shaky start, does that mean you go immediately to pulling the hook, going Benner? I mean, track record shows Benner is a very elite level goaltender when it comes to high pressure situations, but the way he's been playing this year, I don't know. Like, I do love the guy because he is St. Louis, through and through. Brought us a cup, but at the same time, I did say on the podcast I am rooting for Team Canada. That could change. I am a fair weather fan through and through, but I'd like to see Benner at least get a shake at one of these games, and they play 4, so you got to think he's going to get at least one if they do ride Logan Thompson as their number one guy. But USA looks stacked. I think they're coming in really, really, really ready because what happens at Four Nations, that's got to be weighing in the back of a lot of these guys' minds. Like that's going to add insult to injury if you lose at the Four Nations and you lose in the Olympics. So I'm curious to see how that's all going to shake out.
I think USA's, and it's crazy to say this, but I think USA's whole gold medal depends on Matthew Tkachuk. Is he healthy enough to get us to the finals? Because I think that was one reason why we couldn't quite beat Canada or get us over the hump last time against some of the Four Nations, because he was definitely injured.
Yeah, that could be. He's on a line with his brother Brady and then Jack Eichel. It's just like, man, and that's the listed second line. The first line's got Austin Matthews on it with who was it? Matt Boldy and Jake Getzel. So it's just crazy to see. And we're talking about that, but Canada's got Crosby and McKinnon and
Celebrini.
McDavid and Celebrini, who's been a stud. I can't believe they didn't bring Bedard, honestly. I think that would have been crazy. I know Celebrini has been lighting it up in MVP caliber points this year, so it makes sense that he's on the team.
I think Shen ruined Bedard's Olympic chances, to be honest.
Oh, with the shoulder injury?
Yeah, I do. Yep. I do. As much as that it hurts to say, because like Bedard was on a tear up until that injury, and he's really not recovered well since then.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Bedard could have handled the Olympics. I think he's too big of a bitch. But other than that, like I do think, Shen kind of, using his cross-checking abilities to his shoulder definitely helped his cases, but we'll see.
All right. We did have a question on here. We were talking about Jordan Binnington earlier from our fearless leader at Interstate 70 Sports Media. Jeremy says, how much longer do you think Binnington will be with the Blues?
Personally, I'm hoping he has a fantastic Olympics so that he can get traded at the end of it.
Oh.
I mean, we were talking. I love Benny. He's like the only Blues person I have a jersey of, and he's the guy that brought us the cup. But he's had one of the worst seasons ever, and so if we can get anything for him at this point, would just be great, to be honest. And I still think that he's a competitor. If you put him on a team that is winning, you never know how far he could take them.
I say you got to offload this year. I think he's got to come off the roster. I mean, at this point, I feel like he had his peak, and we've talked about this multiple times, but, goaltenders are a freak of nature, and you got to kind of ride the highs when you have them, but when you're on a low, like it's bad. Like it kind of messes with you mentally, and if you're not mentally all there, it's going to be really hard to kind of support the team. So nothing but the best for the guy. I'd love to see him have a great Olympics and maybe a good rest of the regular season, but I mean, we're kind of start looking forward towards the future, especially with these draft picks that we might have coming through the ranks. I mean, I would love to see us get a top 5 pick, depending on how bad we decide to tank. But, we got to start moving towards the future.
I'm gonna take this question to the next level. Then, if we're in agreement that Binnington is most likely gone this trade deadline, his Blues tenure is up. I want to go through the hierarchy of Blues alumni. Do you think, Dan, that Jordan Binnington eventually makes it into the St. Louis Blues Hall of Fame?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Okay. I would agree with that. Here's where it gets touchy. Do you think he gets his number retired?
I think that would depend on the rest of his career. As of this point, no, just because he's had the one good year, and I think that there are a couple things that were robbed from him. We can thank Kadri for that and COVID.
Yeah, that 2020 season for sure. At least in the one against Colorado when Kadri runs into us, like Colorado was the better team there. Like Binnington was carrying us. But 2020, yeah, we were, I think, a top 3 team in the league at that point.
Yeah, and he just doesn't play well when he's not, on the big stage and when there's no crowd. It was a different atmosphere, and you could just tell the whole team was thrown off that year. So I think, it's crazy because a couple of things happen differently, and he could be a 3-cup winner, but at this point, I don't think that his number would be retired.
Dakota, where are you at on number retired?
Hell no. Here's my thought. If you're not going to sorry, that came out of the gate. They gave this stupid ass response to why they didn't retire Big Walt's jersey. It's because so many great number 7s have worn it. I can't see you retiring a guy that basically, if it wasn't for all of our goaltenders shitting the bed all at the same time, Benner wouldn't have gotten a shake. He was 4th on our depth chart. He just happened to come and swoop us off our feet, and it's a Stanley Cup victory. Other than that, like, he's been, steady Eddie, which is great. But now that he's having a down year, like, a lot of things have come to fruition, and it really does beg the question, like, why did we get rid of Colton Ellis if we thought that Benner was just going to tank as hard as he is? But as far as going back to the number retiring, you're full of shit. No way. No way in hell. It would take, by the grace of God, he would have to have a Martin Brodeur, like, Hall of Fame, like, end of his season to, like, maybe save his spot on the roster, and then maybe we could talk about, jersey roots, but, like, no way. No way.
Then I won't even bring up statue out front.
Oh my god! What?
Obviously, you got to have your jersey number before you get statue. So if we're
Holy.
not going to retire the jersey, then no statue. Maybe just a random Stanley Cup bobblehead giveaway every 5 years. We'll do that. All right. Anything more Olympics? We're excited to see. We talked about Dvorsky, getting some good playing time. Gets game 1 tomorrow. It'll be interesting to see how they play because he's on the second line because he's a good NHLer, but he's also on the second line because they don't have very many NHLers. So it's a good thing and a bad thing. Dakota, who'd you say Slovakia plays tomorrow morning?
Damn it, Jacob. Slovakia, I think, plays. Let me see if we pull this up here real quick. Don't yell at me on the podcast. Slovakia plays Finland at 9:30 Central Standard Time. And then Sweden, we all know, is going to ride Italy dirty into the sunset at 2 p.m. later that day. I think, for me, the biggest question is going to be USA and their goaltender threesome. So that came out weird. It's a kids' podcast. My thing is do you start Jake Ottinger or do you start Connor Hellebuyck? And I do believe that studies do show that Connor Hellebuyck doesn't necessarily in the big moments do ride Jake the Snake Ottinger, who typically, when given a good team in front of him, comes out and shows out. So I think USA's got a big decision on their on the forefront for sure.
Yeah, I think the secret's out on Connor Hellebuyck. The Blues figured that out. You got to, on those big games, you get people in front of him, you get deflections, you get rebounds. Like, I would definitely go with Ottinger if I were the coach.
The same thing can be said for Ottinger, though, because Dallas has made it to the Western Conference Finals 3 years in a row, and Jake can't get over the hump. He can't get there. So he's made it farther than Hellebuyck, but
and his coach threw him under the bus last year.
Right.
That's true. Well, we saw how far that went for the coach.
Yeah.
Oh, Pete DeBoer, we're sorry for you. We're not.
All right. Let's do some Blues talk then. There's only one game that we have to cover that has happened since our last episode, and unfortunately, that's a game against Dallas where at this point, do we play Dallas again this year? Because if we are, I'm going to bet this. We ended up losing 5-4 when Dallas scored in the last minute of the game to take the lead. So if there's a prop bet out there that allows me to bet on that, I could be a millionaire because it's obviously going to happen if we play Dallas again. I think that's 4 times now that's happened this year. And all within three
against
okay.
Dallas for sure.
And so all of them within the last month and a half-ish time. Yeah. So, yeah. Right now, the St. Louis Blues are 20, 28, and 9. That gets us 49 points, which gets us 31st in the league and has us 14 points behind the wild card. Dan, I'm going to assume probably not what you expected for this year. No. What's your thoughts on this? Not even the first half of the season, over the first half of the season, but just thoughts on how everything's going, and then maybe your thoughts on what's going to happen after the Olympics.
I was one of these fans, I guess, that was blinded by what happened at the end of the season last year. I figured that we would just pick up right where we started, and we'd have an incredible season. That obviously did not happen because, the truth of the matter is that there's just not the effort's not there. The want to play or the want to win it's just not there from half our team, and the season has gone exactly as they have wanted it to go, which is definitely unfortunate because I think our coaching staff is really good, and I think they've tried to do as much as they possibly can, but you can only do so much to get guys to the point. They have to do the rest. So at this point, I'm hoping that they sell. It's been a long time since the Blues have had a top 5 pick. And I think with our recent success in scouting or at least recent drafting, it's shown that our scouts are pretty damn good. Like, finding Carbonell at 21st and Dvorsky at 10th and Stenberg, things like that. Like, so I have faith that if we get a top 5 pick, they're going to use it really well. And I would just love to have an actual bona fide superstar on this team. Like, we have good players, but I don't think there's anybody that, there's no Kirill Kaprizov $17 million player on our team for sure.
And I think talking about all those things that you just mentioned kind of like culminates into, if we're going into like such a deep retool, I'll use those in quotation, because I really don't think what I'm going to say is going to be a retool. Like, I think the younger kids, they all kind of come in with the same kind of mindset and play style, right? And so like mixing old with young, necessarily you have to understand who works well with others. But if you have kind of the same core group of young kids that are all kind of playing fundamentally the same, that's a large word for me, fundamentally the same, like it just makes sense. And so I don't think it's going to be too big of a retool, because you got like guys like Thomas Stenberg, if you get his brother Ivar, you got Dalibor Dvorsky, Jimmy Snuggerud. They're all very fast with the puck. They're very quick-minded. You have Dylan Holloway, you have Broberg, like very young core group people that you the roster around. I don't think it's going to be much of a retool. It's just a matter of finding that chemistry. And I do think that they should be sellers. Like I think they should try to see as what can they get out of what we have, and invest in the future. Like pull a Cardinals move, right? Let's see what your young talent will give you. Obviously, the Cardinals are going to do that this year, and I do think for the Blues it might end up being a better scenario than just hanging on to, really really lengthy contracts. Try to see what you can get.
Yeah, what you said, it's very reminiscent of like the Canadians. Like, I think they were, in a spot a couple years ago where they were retooling as well. But now they've got a young core team, and that team is on fire this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they got some high draft picks on that team, and Yaroslavsky. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but I put the accent in there, so that should help. Nick Suzuki was somebody I think they picked up in a trade, but Cole Caulfield, Lane Hudson, they got some stud. Jacob Fowler, who's a young good goalie. So yeah, kind of one of those teams that did the rebuild the correct way, where we're still trying for the retool of can we do it quicker kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I think if Dan, going into this season, looking at the team on paper, and maybe even still looking at the team on paper now, what would you say is the St. Louis Blues, or is supposed to be the St. Louis Blues' strength? Because I think nothing is our strength at this point. But what is supposed to be our strength?
I mean, at the end of last year, our strength was our forecheck, like the way in the neutral zone trap, like the way that they were throwing pucks in deep and getting on the pucks and getting and recovering them. It helped us get a lot of odd man opportunities down low because of basically the way that we were keeping pucks in the zone. And I just think that, I don't know, for whatever reason, they just did not do that at all this year. They had no forecheck. They had no identity. They just, like I said earlier, they just really just didn't seem like they cared.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to twist your words a little bit and say that the forwards were our strength. That's who's going to be, dumping the puck in and going and getting it. And that's kind of where I was thinking was, our back end is a little old, and a little bit unproven with the pickup of Mayu, and then Tucker's still kind of, a 7th round pick and young. Matt Kessel's young. So we knew what we were kind of getting with the older guys. But then again, we were worried about age and regression there. So looking at the forward group and seeing Snuggerud full-time, Dvorsky full-time, Stenberg being able to come up, but then Thomas, Kyrou, Buchnevich, Holloway, Shen, all of these guys, you're like, this forward group should be good. So I think the most concerning thing for me is that if you look at Money Puck and look at their expected goals that the St. Louis Blues should have scored, we're at 146, which is worst in the league. Like that was, in my opinion, our strength was our forwards and our ability to either, like you said, dump the puck and keep the puck in the offensive zone, or just score more goals. But being 32nd in the league is something that's like, where the hell did that come from?
Yeah, I mean, it could be a lot of things this season. when you have a young defense, it's hard to get the puck out of your zone. And I think that's been a lot of the problem is when you can't get it out, obviously you can't even start to forecheck in that case. And I think there's a couple of big moves that really went under the radar that nobody talked about. Obviously, Suter retiring, like nobody knew how big of an impact that guy had, even though he was our third line defense. But he's an older guy. All the younger guys are going to look up to what he's saying. And the other thing too is how underappreciated I guess Nick Leddy was, right? Like look at him performing like a stud on San Jose, and look at that team. Like maybe that was a mistake letting him go.
Mm-hmm.
I know some people.
Mirio.
Go ahead.
You can go.
I was just going to say, I know some people will blame the lack of goals on not having Zach Bolduc. But I think to go back to your point, Dan, is the lack of forecheck is the lack of Radek Faksa and missing out on him. So what do you got, Dakota?
Well, I was going to go back to the question you had and kind of like I'm sure a lot of the keyboard warriors are about to attack me here because I like to talk about goaltending. But I also I think going into this year, I would have said our goaltenders, honestly. I mean, we just had Joel Hofer sign a 2-year extension. He was playing with house money, and we honestly thought he could have been a number one goaltender. And obviously, Jordan Bennington has a resume that speaks for itself. So kind of going into this year, knowing that, obviously a couple of bad breaks didn't fall our way in the playoffs. I mean, having a guy like Jordan Bennington and having a backup like Joel Hofer, like some may say it was goaltending going into this year. Hey, we've got, 1A, 1B that can easily, doesn't matter time or day, game to game, we've got a number one goaltender back there. And now, this is where I stick my foot in my mouth. Obviously, that did not happen this year. And, statistics speak for themselves.
That you bring up a good point that I don't think enough people have talked about. The Blues made a coaching change, obviously, most recently with moving Steve Ott down to the AHL. And a lot of people think that was because our power play was so awful and he was kind of the head of the power play. Well, nobody talks about David Alexander, the goalie coach. Everybody, I get that when he came on, he was, very renowned or, very talked about. Bennington was a huge fan, but like, usually like, in a coaching, like for baseball, if you're not hitting, you're going to look at your hitting coach. If you're not, playing good defense, you're going to look at your defense coach. If you're not playing good goalie, why isn't David Alexander being talked about?
Well, that begs the question, is it his goaltending or is it the goaltending or is it the defense in front of the goaltender?
Well, that's
and
true too.
It's like 220, 221. I feel like it's mostly goaltending, but it's also mostly defense. So like, if you're going to go for one, you might as well go for the other. And the sad thing is there are times where they show up and show out in front of their goaltender, and we have games that we're like, holy shit, we know how to play hockey. And then there's games where they just hang them out to dry, and you're like, what just happened? Did we just forget everything we learned? So it sucks. And believe me, I've thought about that too, because I'm just like, where's the fix, right? If you're a goaltender, it's everything's mental. You go out there and practice and you try to work on things, maybe seeing the puck differently, maybe having some guys screen you a little bit, see if you're tracking the puck well or whatnot. But it's like game in and game out, it seems like something else just comes to the forefront of an issue, whether it be bodies in front of the net, whether it be goalies getting screened, whether it be lack of, possession in the ozone. It's like one thing after another just pops up with this team, and it's really hard to kind of pinpoint where the issues arise.
One thing we used to, me and my friends, when we would watch Blues hockey in the past, is we made fun of Jake Allen because he seemed to always be sliding across the net. Like we would say power slide Jake, because he would like push, go into the butterfly, make the save, but then just continue to glide away from the net. Like he would just keep going. And I've been noticing that more from Jordan Binnington instead of, if he has to go side to side, he's going side to side in short spurts and staying, square with the puck. I'm going to make it one big skirt and then drop in the butterfly, but then like continue to slide. And I have zero coaching background, so I don't know. Maybe that's what he's supposed to do. But it just seems weird that after he makes the save, his body continues to move and then he's no longer in the crease anymore. I'm just like, I don't know if that's what you're supposed to do. So I've been kind of trying to watch more goalies whenever they're happening, because I know you want to stay square to the puck. And it just seems that he sometimes does do that, but then other times he's continuing to slide or sliding too far when he should be taking choppier steps. Again, I don't know, but that's just kind of what I'm seeing is more of a sliding Jordan Binnington, almost to the point of where he was like Jake Allen in the past.
It's definitely a positional thing for Bennington. When he's on, his positioning is so good that he doesn't hardly have to make the save. It just makes it comes into him. But when he's not positioned correctly, we're seeing the season that he's having.
All right. I'm going to tell everyone about some cool places that they could spend their money. One of them is Scooters Coffee, specifically the drive-thrus on Highway 143 and Troxter Way in Highland, or Vandalia Street and Indiana Avenue in Collinsville. And if you cannot hit any of those, you can also go to the other 30 locations in the greater St. Louis area. And that is amazing people, amazing drinks, amazingly fast. Scooters Coffee. Also, make sure to check out Hughes Custom Design. They are a family-owned and run small business that is operated out of Maryville, Illinois, and they specialize in laser-cut, hand-painted signs. And they have options that are typically ready upon request, like the St. Louis Blue Note, the Cardinals STL sign. They typically have Chief signs, which are all the 3 signs that Dakota has in the background there on the wall. But he can also do custom jobs. So if you have a youth sports team or just a beer league softball team that you want to get put on a wood sign, they can make that happen at Hughes Custom Design. So check them out on Facebook. And then lastly, Imprint Labs. They specialize in bringing your brand to life with custom laser engraved Richardson hats and vibrant custom sublimated metal prints. Whether you want to make a statement with high quality headwear or showcase your design on eye-catching metal art, they deliver precision, durability, and style every time. You can elevate your brand with Imprint Labs, where your vision meets our craftsmanship. So hats, metal signs. They also do shirts if you're looking for shirts. So Imprint Labs. So we pretty much have it all covered. If you want a design of something on something, you can either get it from Hughes Custom Design in wood, or you can get it from Imprint Labs on a t-shirt, on a metal print, or on a hat. You need something on something, check out the Blues Fan Forum podcast, because we'll point you in the right direction. If for some reason you do not want to spend any of your money on any of those companies, it is okay, because I'm going to assume that you are saving money to come to our watch party on March 12th. And that way you can buy more raffle tickets, and then you have a better chance of just winning maybe something from Imprint Labs or Hughes Custom Design or Scooters. So if you want to save your money for March 12th, that's okay. All right. We're going to spend probably the next 20 to 30 minutes here on what the heck is going to happen post Olympics here. So I'm going to start it off with our Teach Me How to Doug section. I'm going to play the music because it's cool music. It's more AI music, Dan. So you can listen to the song. I don't have a video for this one, but you can listen to the song, and then we'll dive on in. Pull up the song here, wherever it is hiding.
The one bonus about the Olympics is that there's no Blues loss in about 6 days.
Let's see if you got what it takes to run the Blues. Teach me how to Doug, teach me how to Doug. You're the GM now, make a trade, make a plug. Cap space tight, but the roster's got a bug. So show us what you got. Teach me how to Doug. Sign them, trade them, send them down to the A. Build a cup team like it's Judgment Day. You got picks, you got cash. Can you make a splash or crash? Better know your lines and match, because fans don't want to see a playoff collapse.
Playoff collapse. It makes me sad, so that's where I turn the music off. All right. Dan, here's your question for you. It'll teach me how to Doug question. First, I'll start it off with the Blues have made a transaction recently in picking up Jack Finley off waivers. They've also made the transaction a little bit before that of trading Nick Bukestad. So Bukestad is off the roster. Jack Finley, you would expect to be on the roster, because if we don't have him on the roster, we have to send him down, and then he would go through waivers again, and then maybe Tampa would just pick him back up. So if you're picking him up, you got to assume that he's going to be on the roster. Assuming Robert Thomas and Dylan Holloway are healthy following the Olympic break, we're going to be 2 skaters over the roster limit. So my question for you, Dan, is are you sending somebody down or are you making some more trades? I know one thing I think you brought up too is you probably want to bring Stenberg back up and getting him playing back in the NHL more. So we got 3 people that either got to go to a different NHL team or go to Springfield. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think you can. I don't think you can put him back down in the AHL. Like you said, for Fenley, we're obviously not going to be sending him down. I don't think a guy like Dvorsky is he's an NHLer now. You're not going to send him down. And I think Stenberg is an NHLer as well. Like he definitely proved that he belongs here. So I think you're either going to play the game of the rotating people up on the box, which I don't think is helpful for anybody, or you got to trade them. And that's why I'm saying, like, I'm hoping that for one, that we have a great Olympics, that everybody stays healthy for sure during that period. And then, that Doug is on the phone during the time, because it's a roster freeze, but it doesn't mean that they can't like call and start making, ideas or forming ideas. And hopefully as soon as the roster freeze is on, those trades go through like that.
Yeah, like this Jack Finley pickup technically happened during the roster freeze, but there's no NHL-ness going on right now. So, like, Jack might be reporting to St. Louis and getting some practices in, but I think he's free to not report until post-Olympics or till a certain date because, I don't know, technicalities for the freeze, whatever. But yeah, Doug could be on the phone right now talking to somebody about moving whoever it may be. So if we got 3 people that we got to move, do you want to see if you can't come up with 3 names that either are traded or, I guess, probably traded at this point, not going to be sent down? Or maybe you just send somebody down and try to get them through waivers, like it would have to be like a Matt Kessel, a Nathan Walker, or a
Fabry,
Fabry, yeah.
Yeah. I guess I don't even know, I don't even know if a Matt Kessel would help because you have a bunch of forwards. So
right.
You have to kind of figure out what you're going to do with them. Yeah. I don't know. I would love to see, I know that the asking price for Thomas is high. I would honestly, I would love for us to keep Thomas. I think that he still has potential, and I would still love for him to be, I don't know if he's going to ever be like a number 1 center of a Stanley Cup team, but he could definitely be like a number 2 center of a Stanley Cup team. Kyrou is the guy I kind of want to get a high return on. I think that now is the time. He could really help some teams out, and he's had such an off year. I was one after last year was like, no, he had one of his best years ever. Let's keep him. I think now's the time. I think his, we've gone through 3 coaches now with him, and maybe it's not the coach's problem. It's maybe a Kyrou problem.
Common denominator.
Yeah. So I think the time is now. Let's, I wouldn't want to sell low, but I would, and the Shen, I think, is another guy that we can definitely get a good package for. And I hate to see these guys don't get me wrong, but I think the time is now, to get the value out of them that you're gonna want.
We do have Roger from last week brought up that Joseph was probably be going, which is kind of, I think that's the one that on this podcast we have said, like, that's the one that is 100% without a doubt happening. Mm-hmm. Just because he's on an expiring contract, there's absolutely no reason to keep him. We actually thought that would have been the first trade, and then they traded Nick Bukestad, and me and Dakota were both like, we didn't even talk about this. It came out of nowhere.
That was a weird trade for the Devils.
Yeah. And I had mentioned to Jacob, I was like, someone's going to go by the end of the game. And sure as shit, it was Nick Bukestad. Really didn't make sense looking at it. But, hey, he's off the roster now. So I think for me, it's Joseph and Shen I feel like have to be gone. I think your return on Shen's going to be pretty high. I mean, he's still not that old, but I think he can provide just about anything for a team, whether it be, leadership, whether it be, a good third line center. Hell, he could be really good on a power play for somebody going deep into the playoffs. another one for me would be Justin Falk. I
Agreed.
know both of them don't really have no trade clauses. I think it's down to 15 teams, so basically half the league. I think you can find somebody out of those 15 teams to go to. Justin Falk's a lockdown defenseman. He's getting up there in age, but again, provides the same thing as Braden Shen, leadership. You know what you're getting out of him. He's off. I mean, shit, Justin Falk leads or was leading our team in points at some point, so you know he can score. You know he can provide some offensive ability. I think the upside for all three of those is really great. Matthew Joseph, really good with speed, great with possessing the puck, great on the offense and the defense, probably more defense than offense. But, you know, all three of those guys have great characteristics for, you know, a team that's trying to make a deep playoff run. So I'd be wondering to see if any of those moves are made because Doug Armstrong tends to sit on his hands. But knowing that his team's kind of in the shits, I'd like to see him kind of make this an easier transition for Alexander Steen.
The last thing I would really want us to do is like you said, not do anything. Like you said, sit on our hands, and then they go on like some stupid run after the friggin' Olympics, and you know, then we're back at mid again.
It's going to be very difficult to go on a run and still make the playoffs. Like a run is the worst thing that could happen because then you end up in the 13, 14, 15 range instead of the 2, 3, 4 range.
Agreed.
So Sam's on board with Jordan Kyrou. She's thinking Jordan Kyrou wants to go or is going to be the one to go. And I think that's, if you're trading a big name, that's, I think, the one that most people are kind of agreeing with. Dakota, we got this comment here from Tom Courtney, and I'm pretty confident. I know I've talked to Tom a couple times, but if I did not know Tom, I would have assumed that Dakota wrote this. Dakota says, trade them for a bag of pucks, clear the cap, and use the young crew. Yeah, between bag of pucks and kicking rocks, those I think are Dakota's catchphrases. So
It's a good one. It's a good one.
That's fine.
But notice how none of us really mentioned Jordan Binnington. I know we just dogged on him for about 25 minutes of the podcast. It's one of those things like, do we want to tank or do we kind of want to like, I don't know. It's hard to say because again, you can't really. You're going to trade a goaltender mid-season. Obviously, you're going to get an AHL, call up. Do you want to play that gamble, or do you just kind of let your goaltenders just kind of self-inflict their own wounds and just kind of ride the season out with, less bodies that they had in front of them before? And, Braden Shen's a go-getter, a team-first guy. I think he's the first guy that you're going to mention when laying down the body. Same with Justin Falk. Having those guys out of the lane is either going to create more offense for the opposing team, or it's going to allow Jordan Binnington to see the puck more. So, either way, not sure how this is going to go, but if JB is one of those guys that we get rid of, buckle up here, fans. We're in for a hell of a ride.
And I think that all depends on the return, too, because I think there's some teams that might be willing to overpay for a Jordan Binnington because he's got that proven success in the playoffs. A team like the Hurricanes, for instance, that just can't get any goaltending, or even the Oilers. I know that they went out and traded for Jari, but what good has that done them? So, there's teams that I think would be willing to pay high for Jordan Binnington, but I think it's all going to be dependent on his Olympic performance. If he goes out there and shits the bed at the Olympics, then he's going to be a Blue next season.
Have you guys seen the trade proposal that people have been sharing around social media with Robert Thomas going to the Minnesota Wild?
No.
So that's a dangerous boat, right? Trading with in the division. But the return isn't terrible. Like the return is Jesper Wallstedt, who is a franchise type goalie, their first round pick, which I believe it was for this year, which you can kind of expect that it won't be very great. They're going to be in the playoffs and probably going to do pretty well, I would imagine. And then it was another like high end forward prospect, nobody that is playing in the NHL for them now, but another high-end forward prospect.
Don't be surprised about their playoff spot or their draft pick, because remember the both either Minnesota or Dallas is going to be eliminated in the first round. Two of the best teams in the league, and then one of them is going to be playing golf in the second round.
Could be an 8. Could be an 8. Could be like what 20? What does that leave him? 24th.
Would depend, where they finish.
As high as 24, as low as 16.
Yeah,
if they're somehow in as a wild card.
Hey, if we fucking do that,
would you do Robert Thomas for that?
Absolutely. I have the Thomas.
Hey,
look, I'm all about the future here, buddy. I'm buckling up. The fans are like the harness belt's on. I got a Thomas jersey just waiting to be retired and going right on this wall. But hey, I'd rather see a couple Stanley Cups in my lifetime than just one and done. Quit the bullshit. Doug Armstrong strung us along for a long time. I'm glad we finally got it done after 52 years in the organization. But holy shit. Sorry, again, kids podcast. I want to see the development. I want to see us use the young talent. St. Louis is just like the Cardinals. Their farm club is so impressive that we just expend all of our assets just to build a team that's for the now instead of a team that's for the future. Go back to the Chicago Blackhawks. After they had their years of multiple Stanley Cups, they shit the bed immediately. It's because they had nothing to go off of. Their farm system was just depleted. Sorry, I didn't mean to get so passionate, but Jesus hell. Fuck.
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense. We got to use what we've been developing, no?
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's actually why I have this shirt. I mean, they make me drink because every year they just seem like they're aiming for mid. Like all the moves that we ever make, nothing ever seemed to put us over the top. The 2019 run, I don't think it was a fluke, but I do think it was the stars aligning for that to happening. And, and I don't know if we'll ever see it again at this rate, unless Steen, ends up being a much, much better GM. Hopefully he is, but who knows? Doesn't have the greatest mentor, I don't think.
You haven't seen the Blues being buyers at a trade deadline in a long time. We've done an occasional, like the Ryan O'Reilly would be a buy, off season. Even the Braden Shen would be a buy in the off season. But as far as really going all in and saying this is our season, 2019. We bought Michael Del Zotto at the trade deadline. That was our big acquisition. We're playing really good hockey, and we're like, who we need? But we need a 7th defenseman, maybe an 8th or a 9th defenseman, and that's who we went and bought. We haven't had that or a buy on the trade deadline in I don't know how long. So, I wanted to play devil's advocate on the Jordan Kyrou trade idea. Okay. Now, I think he has the ability to be a high skill player in the NHL. We have seen glimpses of him playing well over the last probably 2 weeks of the NHL season here. He has played well. Okay. Nothing about how he has played makes me think that he could do this with the St. Louis Blues. But what if we send him into Toronto and now he's on a line with Austin Matthews? Could he become one of the top players in the league? And you're like, oh, shit.
He's not going to Toronto while Berube's there.
That's a good point. Yeah.
What are we doing? We learned that mistake the first time.
Yeah.
I did for like a couple games after.
Who else might pick him up? What if we make another deal with New Jersey and now he's on a line with either Jack Hughes or Nico Hischier?
That'd be pretty impressive. There's also been lots of rumors of him going to Montreal with Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield, which would be pretty insane too.
Right.
You can add Edmonton to that list. Edmonton was looking for forward, they draft pretty much the entire roster.
Yeah, who do they have to get rid of? Yari?
Yeah, no shit.
All right. And I guess the only other thing, and I'm going to dig into this Jack Finley pickup a little bit more because I believe he's 23 years old. He is 6'6", former second-round pick, 227 pounds, big boy, but is also a center. And honestly, in a vacuum, I think when you see that type of player being 23 years old and a former second-round pick and you see him on waivers, if you've got a spot, you pick him up. I'm wondering if the Blues have ideas of moving more centers, whether that be the Bukestad that we've already moved, whether that be something for Sundqvist, could be something for Suter. Shen, I know, has been playing more on the wing, but moving him or moving Thomas. I wonder if there is they saw him out there and said he's a big center and we're going to need centers because we're going to be moving some. So I wonder if that's coming.
He seemed almost like a younger version of Bugstad. It was like almost a 1-for-1 kind of situation.
Yeah.
He's just young because he's just as big as Bugstad or maybe a little bit bigger. The other thing I love about this Finley guy is he's a St. Louis kid. His dad played for the Blues and he grew up in St. Louis during that time.
Yep. The dad played, Jeff Finley played from 99 to 2004. Interesting here. All the years that Jeff played for the St. Louis Blues, they made the playoffs. So maybe there's a correlation to a Finley being on the team and the Blues making playoffs.
That would be awesome.
I'm reaching for something. I just want playoffs. So yeah, and Jeff Finley's currently a scout for Winnipeg. I wrote that down. So I guess, Dakota, do you have, we've talked about a lot of different players. If you had to pick 3 players, because there has to be 3 players that are not on this team come post-trade deadline. Who are your 3 players that are not on this team anymore?
Yeah, Joseph, Shen, and Falk. But I feel like Falk is either interchangeable with Matthew Kessel going down, but it doesn't make sense. We're going to need some defensive help just in case somebody decides to drop. But I think Shen and Joseph have to be gone. I love Shen as a captain, but if you got to choose between Shen or Falk, one of those 2 guys needs to leave. And I do think right now Falk's upside's probably a little bit more than Shen's, but I mean it's a chess match between those 2. But I really don't think that the Blues should be sitting on their hands by any means during these 2.5 weeks. If Doug Armstrong knows what's good for him, he should be up at midnight in Milan making phone calls to the guys in the US of A, because we got to start making some moves. We got to start. What you're going to do is you're going to do 2 things. You're going to lose your fan base during this, or you're going to gain your fan base. And right now it's in the hands of Doug Armstrong, because if he does sit on his hands and he doesn't move pieces, people are going to start being real pissed off, because not only are you screwing yourself out of this season, but you're also going to probably handcuff, the GM that's about to take your position. So I think if he knows what, because again, he likes to quote himself. He likes to think of the organization first. It's a business, leave it better than you found it. Make some moves. Leave the opportunity for Alexander Steen to build this organization up with a lot of good pieces. So there's my 2 cents.
I don't think Falk's value has ever been higher. Like, you gotta sell high when he's playing as his best that he's ever played, really.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I agree with the 3 that you said. I think those are the best 3 for the team to trade, and the best trade pieces I think we have off the top.
Well, look at the no trade clause, right? You have 15 teams you have to choose from, and I believe at least 5 of those 15 teams are probably going to be playoff contenders. The only problem you're running into is cap space. So, come hell or high water, I know Falk's making, I can't think of what he's making off the top of my head. No, he's expensive, but he's not that expensive.
Yeah, I think it's $6 million.
So, and then Schenner around the same?
Yep, I believe so.
That's still going to be the hardest part. Is a lot of times when teams are making these trades for rentals that are going to go help them with the playoffs, they're on 1-year contracts, or it's their last year, and so teams aren't worried about we'll take 50% of that. You really don't want to take 50% of Shen's contract going or Falk's contract going, because they have 1 or 2 years left on top of the rest of this year that you could be eating. So yeah, like you mentioned, the cap space, finding a team that can do that cap space. But if you're in the idea that this retool is turning into a rebuild and we're going to be bad for 2 or 3 years, then sure, eat the 50% and get a 2nd round pick instead of a 4th round pick, whatever.
Because I think that if St. Louis eats those contracts, we're going to have room, because we're going to be getting guys for dirt cheap. We're going to be playing rookies that are on league minimum.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a matter of, okay, for the next 2 years, we know we're in a retool / rebuild, eat those contracts, get those guys some NHL playing experience. Then when the time is right, once those rookie contracts are over, you've then kind of like cemented yourself as, okay, we're a playoff contending team. We have some money to burn now that we've kind of, sat back and kind of sucked for a bit.
All right. Roger brought up a good question here, and the listeners are all in agreement on who they think is the correct answer for this. So let's see what you guys think, and then I'll show you what the listeners say. But Roger says, assuming Shen is gone, they're not going to name a new captain until next season. But next season, who is that new captain? Dan, what do you think?
Jake Neighbors.
No.
Without a doubt. I think it's going to be Jake Neighbors.
Okay. Dakota, are you still on? I know you've always been Robert Thomas is my captain.
Yes.
You're still Robert Thomas? All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
The peanut gallery here is also going with Jake Neighbors. Sam was the first to say Neighbors. Roger says agree. Tom says agree.
Jake Neighbors went to the Shen school.
The Shen school of hard knocks?
Yeah. You got to lead by example. And I love Tomer, and I think that a year or two ago, I think would have been the best time to give him the captaincy. I don't know. I think that window is passed, especially after this past season, because you want somebody that leads by example. Neighbors always goes in there and fights and plays hard every shift. He's not looking up at the rafters wondering why he missed his last shot.
Which happens 4 times a game for Robert Thomas.
Exactly.
I do think anytime you hear anyone talk about the St. Louis Blues, even Jim Montgomery said it hundreds of times when he first got here, is St. Louis is blue collar. And that's just not Robert Thomas's game. And you can't have every single player on the team cannot be blue collar. Like you have to have some people that are just high skill. So Robert Thomas fits the high skill thing, but he doesn't fit the blue collar, which does kind of, I think, make me want to lean Jake Neighbors on that too. But I mean, you could probably throw Parayko out there too. Parayko's worn an A for not the blue collar thing, but for the captaincy of Parayko's worn the A for a long time. If he finishes his career here, we might have to go back to the Jordan Binnington question of Hall of Fame jersey retirement. If Colton Parayko finishes his career here, he's going to have the most games played by any St. Louis Blue. I think he is 4th right now. He just passed. Who did he just pass? Barrett Jackman? I think maybe. So. Yeah. So he's moving up that list. So maybe he gets a C at some point, which I know would not be a fan favorite.
If he gets a statue outside, it's going to be a fucking road cone. Because right now he's turning into a life-size Eric Brewer. Like, I just for me, I love the dude through and through because I think he's a very genuine human being. But right now, at his age and the way he plays hockey, he just gets in the way. If you can't use your 6'9" happy ass to hit somebody across the boards and at least generate some sort of offensive ability, what are you doing out there? And I really don't.
He's got a goal now. He scored one. He scored one.
Oh, shit. I'm so sorry. I've completely forgot about his first goal in 55 games. How could I forget?
I do think playing with the Canadian defense is going to help him kind of get back to his form. He's definitely looked off, or maybe like an injury or so. I don't know. He just hasn't looked like himself this season, or he's just second guessing. So, I think you said it's a mental game. And I think he just hasn't been in the right mindset all season. I do think that he could be a good captain down the line. I don't know if he would ever get a statue. It's the same kind of thing, or his number retired for that matter. I love him. I think he's going to be one of the best defenders that we've had, on the Blues history. But the Blues history is weird. We're talking about it earlier with Bennington. He's a great goalie, but the fact that he's the best, most winningest goalie in Blues history is telling, to be honest. We just don't really have the longevity from players in this franchise.
When he set that record, I went through and looked at all the other franchise records for goalies, goalie wins, and Jordan Binnington would only have the record on like 2 other franchises. And one of them was it was like Seattle and Utah. Like it was like teams that haven't played that many games yet.
Yeah, we
So,
just
yeah.
have never really had franchise players like a franchise D or franchise goalie. I
Mhm.
mean, obviously, you know, your Hall of Famers like McKinnis, Jackman, and Pronger, but outside of that, it was always like a revolving door in the back line.
Yep. So, all right. Dakota, I'm going to ask you my non-school appropriate question. And see what you go with this. Have you ever seen I think it's Barstool, but it's called Sunday Conversation?
Yes.
You ever seen any of those? What's the guy's name with the long hair that asks the weird questions? I can't think of the guy's name, and I should have.
I know who you're talking about. And I should know his name because I do have a Barstool flag right behind me.
All right. Oh yeah.
Fuck.
And
Damn
so,
it. What the hell is his name?
I don't know. So he had I think Jared Goff on, and he asked this question related to Super Bowls, but I'm going to ask this to you, Dakota, related to Stanley Cups. And the question was, and again, not school appropriate. So if you're a kid, listen to this, shut it off or something. Dakota, if you could cut off an inch of your dick for every time you win the Stanley Cup, how many Stanley Cups would you have?
I'm not working with a lot here, Jacob. So I mean, at this point, I think my max is 3.
Hey, that's where I was going. 3.
At this point, I'll take that. You know, I'm not beggars can't be choosers, but at the same time, like 3 cups, I'll take that in a heartbeat. But I mean, geez, Louise, way to put me on the spot. I didn't mean to get rosy cheeks. If you're a kid, we turn it off. Like this is a Blues Fan Forum after dark. But yeah, absolutely,
Right.
3 is all I need. 1 is
This is
fine,
it.
but I mean, at that point, let's be greedy.
Yeah. He asked Jared Goff that, and Jared Goff was like, what? Like, what? I was like, oh my God. But I'm like, I'm going to bring that up on my podcast because that was hilarious. Thanks. I'm going 3 as well. I mean, 3's it. Unfortunately, you can't win a half, so 3.5 won't work. But yeah, I'm going to go 3. All right. Dan, now that we messed this whole podcast up, it was going great until here at the very end. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover or talk about? We typically go about an hour, and we're a little over.
No, I just appreciate you having me on the podcast. This was a lot of fun.
All
I
right.
love talking about sports and the Blues, and yeah, even if they're terrible, it's still fun. And I still watch every single game. It's like it's one of those things that it's punishing. You know what's going to happen, but you still got to fucking see it.
Right. It was Caleb Presley. Caleb Presley is the guy from Sunday Conversation.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think I'm on the same path as my brother Luke, who has come on the podcast a couple times. Is let's just watch good hockey. Typically, that's hitting the over. All right, we won at least 5.5 goals, in which the Blues lose in the third period. So just a good hockey game that we end up losing. So that way we are closer to Stenberg, or Gavin McKenna. Who knows? Dan, did you happen to see the Gavin McKenna stuff that was going around recently?
Yeah, I did.
So
Yeah.
I ended up sharing. Somebody sent it to me, and I'm like, this isn't real. So I actually went to the the Pennsylvania.gov website and actually found the indictment or whatever it is. So I'm like, oh wow, this is legit. They are dropping the felony charge. So realistically, he'll probably settle for something and just get out with a slap in the wrist. It came out at first of like, oh crap, like Gavin McKenna's in a lot of trouble. Then news came out that, well, the reason that he broke this guy's jaw is because he was saying stuff about his mom. So then everyone was like, oh my God, Gavin McKenna is my captain. Like, I want him on my team.
His draft stock went through the roof.
Right.
Like,
it went down and then it went back up immediately.
What I found most
generational
impressive
talent that can kick the shit out of somebody, absolutely. Dude can score and beat the shit out of you.
That's what I found most impressive. From what I understand, Gavin McKenna hit him twice. That's it, and broke the dude's jaw with 2 hits. So I wouldn't be messing with hockey players. I don't give a crap how old they are.
Yeah. I don't know why you would. I mean, say a hockey player say anything about their mom like to a hockey player, because a hockey player isn't going to be like, oh, it's okay. Like, no hockey player ever is going to do that, except for maybe some St. Louis Blues. But
Hey, at least it wasn't Happy Gilmore, and he didn't take his skate off and beat the shit out of him with it. Hey, at least he was on dry land and whatnot. But damn, Gavin McKenna, what a guy.
Yeah.
all right. So, all right. Well then, we will work on getting out of here. Go check out Scooter's Coffee. Get yourself some coffee in the morning because it's Wednesday. It's hump day. Get you through the day. Check out Hughes Custom Design on Facebook, Imprint Labs on Facebook or Instagram. Make sure you check out The Itch Rock Radio. When did you say your radio's on, Dan?
Sunday night from 6 to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time on 89.1 FM. And then you can also check out the podcast on itchrocks.com.
All right. So check those out. Looking forward to some Olympics. We've had a weird day of not a whole lot of hockey. We've had some women's hockey, which Kelsey, I forgot to pull this up, but Kelsey asked about it. The USA dominated Canada 5-0. So that's awesome. Exciting to see. So yeah, looking forward to that. And then we will be back next week with Shake, Rattle, and Goal podcast host Matt Baker from Springfield. So we'll get a little AHL update as well as Olympic update as well as St. Louis Blues. And Sam's noted a couple times that Matt Luff is playing in the AHL All-Star game right now. So he is the only representative from the AHL. So Matt, and I'm sure Sam commenting next week, will give us kind of an update on how the AHL team is going, which it's somehow worse than the St. Louis Blues. So with that, Dan, give me a big let's go Blues, and we'll get out of here.
Let's go Blues.
All right. See you, everybody. Dan,
Thank
don't
you.
go anywhere just yet.
Okay.